started now. Welcome. We are, we've gathered together to be with one another, to support one another in the aftermath of the horrific incident that occurred in Colleyville yesterday in Texas. While there really are no words to express our fear and our anger, our hurt adequately, I believe there's a salve to help us through this period and this time, and to work against the hate that we all witnessed and experienced and sat trembling as we watched the news. So when you put the word out in the early part of one day and gather an incredibly esteemed group of people who support and hold the community together when these incidents occur, and everybody comes back with a resounding absolutely, you know you're doing the right thing. So I'm really proud to be part of Interfaith Atlanta and to call upon my esteemed colleagues and friends and board members and faith leaders to address us with words of encouragement. I'd like to first take no more time and allow everyone else to speak, beginning with the Honorable Mayor Andre Dickens. We are so grateful to have you here to address us and to give us words of hope and healing.
Good evening, everybody. And it is good to be in the Atlanta community, this interfaith community of Atlanta. I've made phone calls and reach outs today, and I just heard about this Zoom call for us to be a part of, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to speak to each of you and to just share some time together. I join you all, the Interfaith Atlanta community, with the relief that Rabbi Charlie Citron and Walker and his communities are home safely. Yet I also know that this terrifying experience sent shockwaves throughout the Jewish community and its allies. I know that the rising anti-Semitism in this country has made so many people concerned for their welfare, especially in what should be their most sacred space, their most sacred home, their synagogue or temple. I'm moved to be a part of this gathering where people from all different faiths and walks of life in Atlanta have come together to show solidarity and support. So I offer my support to the Jewish community in this stressful time. May you have peace of mind. I'm a deacon of a Christian church, a Baptist church. I've been a deacon for the last 17 years, and I know what it's like to have a place where I go for solace and to unburden my soul. Not only is it where I seek out God, but it is just a part of community. It's part of my family. So, people shouldn't feel afraid to go into sanctuaries. The Atlanta that I love knows this to be true, which is why so many of us, hundreds of us, are gathered here tonight. So I can even recall going to AA Temple the very next Saturday after the Pittsburgh bombing a few years ago. I had to be in that place to mourn and to share space with community members, loved ones. And so as I begin my new mayoral administration, I'm working to make sure that Atlanta is this city that knows how to love its neighbor, a city and a people that draw circles. Everybody hears me talk about I draw circles and I don't draw lines. This is important right off the bat for us to make sure that this is a circle of interfaith community. So together we can stand for a city where it's safe to pray in our houses of worship. And tonight we pray for a community that is stronger when we stand together. And this is the eve of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Day. We are here to witness his words, which is that hate is too great a burden to bear. Hate is too great a burden to bear. And love is the greatest force in our universe. And it is the heartbeat of the moral cosmos. And so may Atlanta lead in bringing together people to show their strength and support in these trying times. That is the Atlanta I know that we can be. So I thank you for this time, and I'm with you here virtually and in person as the occasion arises. Thank you.
So deeply appreciative. I'm going to pass the leadership over to our superb Executive Director, Jessica Matadine.
Thank you, Rabbi Allen. Thanks for organizing this group at such an important time for our interfaith community to gather to process this traumatic situation. And thank you, Mayor Dickens. Thank you for your support of interfaith efforts, both in and outside of Atlanta. We appreciate your support and just you being here with us tonight. While we are all collectively still in a period of confusion and uncertainty in regards to the details and the motivation of this incident, we want to recognize that this is a triggering situation for the Jewish community in particular, and that as an interfaith group, we stand in solidarity against hatred and violence against any one of us. We understand the vulnerability marginalized groups and minorities feel at this time, and I think we can all relate to the lasting imprints this type of fear leaves on our faith communities. As a harmonious interfaith community, I suggest that we turn any anger and fear we have into an activism for healing, hope, unity. While it's easy to gather in times of joy, it's also so very important to galvanize our faith communities to lift one another up in times of sorrow and in pain. And that's what we're here for. If nothing else, that's why we come together. And it's clear that it's now more important than ever to learn about our differences. And through our advocacy, our action and communal prayer, our education and dialogue, we try to teach a path towards unity among our diversity and all for the common good. Ellen brought a quote to me from Rabbi Citron Walker. In his grace and incredible strength that I see, he expressed this gratefulness as follows. He said, "I am thankful and filled with appreciation for all of the vigils and prayers and love and support, all of the law enforcement and first responders who cared for us, all of the security training that helped save us. I'm grateful for my family. I'm grateful for the CBI community, the Jewish community, the human community. I'm grateful that we made it out, and I'm grateful to be alive." I think there's a lot of lesson we can take from that in finding the gratitude in a time of such trauma and such fear, maybe even anger, all those things that we feel that the fact that he could come and, find what he's grateful for. And I think that's what we need to focus on as well, because once we start dwelling on what we're grateful for, I think we are uplifted just from that. And that's what we need to do for each other. So again, I thank you all for attending tonight. I look forward to hearing all of your thoughts. Our next speaker is Interfaith Board Member Parminder Singh. He's an active member of the Sikh community and also just the social justice and community as well. Parminder.
Thank you, Jessica. Thank you very much. First of all, on behalf of the entire Sikh community of Atlanta, and my organizations, Interfaith Atlanta and Guru Nanak Mission Society of Atlanta, I would like to offer my prayer and support to the entire Jewish community of Texas, Atlanta, and other places, but especially to those who were impacted by this unfortunate and tragic event. People around the nation and various faith communities across the globe have come together to condemn this act and pray and provide support to each other. We stand in solidarity with our brothers and sisters in the Jewish American community and condemn all acts of hate and violence. As Sikh Americans, we also know too well the pain of hate and discrimination. But inspired by our faith, we continue to move forward. We remain committed to our work to ensure all individuals can live free from acts of hate and discrimination all the time. It's difficult to talk about things that make you uncomfortable. It's even more difficult when you are posed and faced with negativity and misfortune. We want to make sure that we can be supportive of each other, especially in times like these. Nobody has the perfect answer, but when we share our dialogues, our stories and exchange our sorrows together with our fellow brothers and sisters, then it means that we have a space to heal and explore and support each other. The horrific incidents such as these remind us that we can't stop or slow down all the good work we as organizations and communities are doing to continue to bring education and awareness to our society and world about our religions, our beliefs, our cultural diversity, and awareness about who we are, what our values are, what do we stand for, and that our goal is nothing but love, respect, compassion, and harmony for the entire mankind. At the end, I will close by saying a short line of prayer from our 6 scriptures. Please join me if you can. Jagat chalanda rakh le apni kirpa tar, jit duare ubre titte lehe ubar. Meaning, the world is going up in the flames. Shower it with your mercy, O Lord, and save it. Save it and deliver it with whatever method it takes, O Lord. Vaheguru Ji. Thank you very much. God bless all. Thank you, Jessica. Back to you.
Are we moving on to the next speaker, Ellen?
Yes, sure. Leanne Rubenstein, if you'll introduce yourself and your amazing organization, then you can share some words with us.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me here tonight. My name is Leanne Rubenstein. I'm the co-director of Compassionate Atlanta. And our aim is to advance the culture of compassion throughout our communities, which I think every one of you who's joined this call has that space of compassion in your heart. Yesterday was a hard day, and it feels helpless to watch the suffering from another from afar. We ask ourselves, how can we make a difference? Well, the antidote to helplessness is action. And I think you're going to hear similar messages from many of us who have different backgrounds. But what is the action, right? How can we make a difference? Yesterday, many of us prayed for those that were part of this incident in all the different ways, the first responders, the people being held hostage, what was going to happen, and the uncertainty of life that was seeping in. So what is our lesson? What can we learn from a day like yesterday? And the answers are actually right in front of us. First of all, our actions matter. What did we hear about Rabbi Charlie all day yesterday? We learned about the bridges that he builds throughout his community. There were people of all different faiths who were praying for him. And so our communities are much more alike than they are different. He had made the connections, and really it is befitting that on this day, we say he was working to build the beloved community, as I think we are all doing in honor of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and in honor of Rabbi Charlie. We are here today, multiple faiths and multiple backgrounds, to get to know one another and to build the beloved community. So what else did we learn? I think it reminded me that now is the time to let others know that we care about them and they matter. Rabbi Charlie did a lot in the community with acceptance and belonging of the LGBTQ community, with the interfaith community, with interfaith families in his congregation, and he worked on racial justice. So now is the time to build those bridges, and now is the time to pick up that phone. It's okay. Call someone and tell them that you love them. It really does make a difference. So say those words, don't hold back. And I want to say that there is space. We hold space. We hold space and compassion. As the news unfolds, we hold space for the perpetrator and his family who is grieving. For compassion has a place there too. So the action that I ask you to take is to take your time, to reach out to others who are not like you, to have conversations, to hold space, because our humankind, our beloved community, the differences that we all bring and share, that is the richness. So in their honor, thank God we are here in their honor, that they can be here with us today. In their honor, take action, make it meaningful and make it count and show compassion. We say, let compassion be your compass. Thank you, everybody, for having me, and thank you, everyone who showed up here tonight.
Thank you, Leanne. Thank you for your inspiring words, and thank you for the work you do with Compassionate Atlanta. I just want to let folks know that you can raise your hand, but we're not going to get to questions until we've heard from all of our speakers, and hopefully there'll be some time for that, or comments if you want to make comments. Introducing Imam Kliman Alamin is like introducing the grand poobah of Interfaith Atlanta, someone who has been here from the very, very start and who is a champion for interfaith action. And I'm proud to call him also a friend. So, Imam.
Yes. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, with the name of God, merciful benefactor, merciful redeemer, representing the general Muslim community as well as the Atlanta Masjid of Al-Islam, but also interfaith community initiatives, and as Ellen said, just interfaith in general. Our Quran says that those who believe in the Quran and those who follow the Jewish scriptures and those who follow the Christian scriptures and any who believe in God in the last day and work righteousness shall have their reward, nor will they fear or grieve. There's another verse of Quran that tells us that we are obligated to check people who go to extremes, and if we don't check those people who go to extremes, then Allah says in Quran, there will not be left mosque, and he names all of these four: mosque, synagogues, churches, actually 5, mosques, synagogues, churches, temples, and monasteries where the name of God is commemorated in abundant measure. It is our obligation to protect these sacred spaces, and that extends into the sacred space of individual and community lives. Let me offer a prayer. Oh God, creator, sustainer, merciful Lord and cherisher of us all, we pray that you expand our hearts, enlighten our minds, stir our souls, and strengthen our relationships, broaden our connections and collaborations, and deepen our commitments to you, but also to each other and to justice and decency. Protect us from distrust, protect us from apathy, from ignorance and hypocrisy. Empower us to confront racism and anti-Semitism and hate and prejudice and violence and oppression. Inspire us to reject self-righteousness that refuses to compromise, and tribal and nationalistic vanity that often pretends to be decency. Help us to see our diversity as a strength and not a threat, our differences as blessings and not as curses. We ask, oh God, that you extinguish the hates, the hurts, the fears, and suspicions that are around us. Give us the courage to forgive, the courage to reconcile, and the courage to change not only ourselves, but our world for the better. We ask that you guide us among those who you guided aright, preserve us among those whom you have preserved, befriend us among those who you have befriended. Lay not on us a burden greater than we have the strength to bear. Protect us from fear that cripples, from hate that destroys, from anguish that oppresses, and from self-righteousness that abuses. Oh God, bless our sacred spaces, protect them, and protect those who frequent and those whose hearts and souls and minds are invested in righteousness. To you belong the sovereignty, to you belong the praise, and you have power over all things. Amen, amen, amen.
Next, we have Rabbi Ron Siegel. If you'll introduce yourself and your wonderful congregation.
Good evening, all. What a privilege and an honor it is to be able to share this time together with you. Thank you, Rabbi Ellen, for helping to organize and bring us all together. It is good to see in this sacred space, this virtual gathering space, so many familiar friends and faces, as well as those who I'm meeting for the first time. I am Ron Siegel. I'm a rabbi at Temple Sinai in Sandy Springs. I've been as part of this community for just about 25 and a half years now. And again, it's a joy and an honor to be with you all tonight. So in the Jewish community, there is a blessing that is known as Birkat HaGomel. It is the blessing for one who has come through a trauma or a life-threatening situation. One who wishes to recite this blessing traditionally stands before their congregation and says the following: "Blessed are you, God, ruling spirit of the universe, who rewards even the inadequate and the imperfect with goodness, and who has blessed me with goodness." After which the congregation will respond to that person reciting the blessing, saying Amen, and may God, who has rewarded you with goodness, continue to always bless you with only goodness. It's a powerful moment when this blessing is done in a congregational setting, when a person publicly expresses gratitude to God for being delivered safely from danger, and then the congregation affirms that expression of thanks. In some ways, Birkat HaGomel, that blessing, is an expression of the extraordinary power of public prayer and grateful recognition that prayer truly can be efficacious. It is an opportunity to express gratitude for the miracle of healing, for the full restoration to family and friends, and indeed to life itself. It struck me as fitting to share just a little bit of teaching about that blessing this evening, for while we gather thankfully with a sense of relief this evening that those who were in such a situation of terror have come through safely and are back with their families and loved ones, we know that throughout the Jewish community and throughout all communities of difference and minorities and faith communities, we recognize that such a fortunate outcome as was yesterday's reality is not always the case. In the wake of our respective sadness and pain and vulnerabilities, what would it mean to be able to acknowledge such moments in a public arena of faith, and then to be able to know that friends from all other faith traditions would publicly respond with the affirmation and the support that is needed, as is the case this evening. On an interfaith trip to Israel that I was privileged to be part of many, many years ago with many who are gathered here this evening, we had the opportunity to hear from Rabbi Jonathan Rosen, who taught that peace and healing will only be experienced among all communities of difference, all different cultures and faiths, and peoples, when we are able to rejoice in each other's successes, when we are able to mourn one another's losses, and when we are always able to publicly acknowledge each other's pains. It's a beautiful image. It's an ideal that I think comes through that blessing that is recited privately by one in a congregation. But we know as we gather as an interfaith community that such an ideal takes effort. It takes effort to make that a reality and an ongoing experience for our community. It will require ongoing commitment. It's going to require readiness to break through the routines that in normal days and normal times often isolate us from one another until sadly the next crisis or tragic event arises. The poet Denise Levertov, in her poem Witness, writes the following: "Sometimes the mountain is hidden from me in veils of cloud. Sometimes I am hidden from the mountain in veils of inattention, apathy, fatigue, when I forget or refuse to go down to the shore or a few yards up the road on a clear day to reconfirm that witnessing presence." We need to commit, each and every one, to the effort needed to make real that presence manifest in our shared wishes of hope and healing this evening. We need to be, as the psalmist states, strong. Our hearts need to be filled with courage. And so I will conclude this evening with a prayer that is written by our colleague, Rabbi Karen Kadar, a prayer for courage and comfort that I've slightly adapted for this evening. God, hear our prayer tonight. With horror, we bear witness once again to the evil in our midst. We pray that our broken hearts do not become embittered. Let us not give in to cynicism and despair. May we find comfort in our faith and in our communities. May we strengthen our shared resolve to be messengers of peace and healing, bringing comfort to all who are brokenhearted. We pray for the soul of our country. May violence be no more. May the way of our land be for good and not for evil. May the words that we speak inspire. May our outstretched arms embrace. May our minds learn tolerance and understanding. Strike the inclination to do evil from the hearts of all who are wicked, and empower each and every one of us in all of our communities, in all of our faiths, in all of our cultures, in all of our circles. Empower us for good, empower us for life, and empower us for love. May we all do the hard work that is necessary to be that community which makes manifest that shared prayer and support and strength that we can make so powerful for one another at our times of joy, at our times of struggle, and our times of sadness. As we gather this evening, let us celebrate and be thankful for the gift of presence that we have tonight. Thank you for the privilege of being part of this evening.
Amen.
Thank you, Rabbi. Next, we have a longtime community leader, Mr. Harold Kurtz. Harold, would you please introduce yourself and tell us what you want to say?
Thank you, Jessica. My name is Harold Kurtz. I'm president of the Jewish Community Relations Council of Atlanta. We appreciate the opportunity to speak for a moment in light of these terrible events in Texas. Thankfully, all the hostages are safe, but the psychic damage may be with them for some time. and the community will need to be with them as they go through future days. We thank the law enforcement community for their diligent efforts in working to bring the crisis to a conclusion. Putting Jews as a group in jeopardy for any reason, especially during their worship services, seems the height of anti-Semitism. Selecting Jews as the target of choice makes it an anti-Semitic act. The fact that the gunman was a member of the Muslim community in the north of England may lead to various conclusions, but one conclusion that should not be made is that this is a call to arms between Muslims and Jews. It is not. In fact, the former president of the local Islamic Center in Colleyville, Texas, expressed his concern for the Jews at the synagogue and his desire for a peaceful conclusion and the safety of the hostages. He spoke glowingly of the rabbi there as a key driver of interfaith activities in the area and as someone who came to the defense of the local Muslim community on various occasions. Moreover, the members of the perpetrator's mosque and community in England have condemned his act. There are two things that we must do as Jews. One is to be vigilant against any anti-Semitic attacks on our community, and the other is to reach out to our Muslim brothers and sisters in acts of loving kindness and solidarity. There is no room for anti-Semitism and no room for Islamophobia. We must stand united for the sake of good relations and peaceful communities. We must act and advocate together for the betterment of all our communities. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Harold, for all of your leadership in the Jewish and Greater Atlanta community. Next, I'm humbled and proud to introduce or to welcome Reverend Angela Rice.
It is an honor to be here with each of you this evening. It is sad that we are here once again. This is not our first time gathering because of a tragedy such as this. As a young girl growing up in the rural South, I remember when 4 young girls were killed by a bomber in their church. Those girls' lives continue to haunt me and to live in the hearts of many as such an injustice to be dressed in your Sunday, go to church dresses to receive a bomb that kills. So this is something that continues to haunt us and to be with us. Something that we as members of the interfaith community have worked diligently to address the issue by bringing people together of different faiths and backgrounds so that no one has to experience the tragedy that we have just faced. And one of the things that I could say is that in facing this, we must not think of this as a Jewish problem. We must not think of it as a Muslim problem or a Christian problem. This is a defect in our humanity. And so what happens to those in the Jewish community also happens to the rest of us in other communities. So we come together to say that we are one. We are one. And so when we begin to work on the idea that we are all one humanity, that I relish in the idea that as a Christian, I am also a Muslim. As a Christian, I am also a Jew. As a Christian, I am also a Sikh. As a Christian, I am also a Buddhist. I'm also a Hindu. Because all of these religions, if we begin to look at them and examine them, speaks to each and every one of us. So as an active purpose for all of us is to begin to walk beyond those boundaries. Begin to look at each and every person who is here as our sister and as our brother, and to know that when one sheds blood, when one cries, that our heart also reaches out to them. So I think as we continue to do the work that we are to do, you know, we should understand that we are that one, humanity. You know, we work on division, and so we need to start working more on inclusion. One of the things that I do as a member of Interfaith Community Initiatives is to plan programs that bring people together, something that Interfaith Atlanta also does, and Compassionate Atlanta. We all work to bring people together. I say that we widen our nets. We widen our nets to bring in more people so that we are not just one small collective, but that we began to look at ways where we can make friends across boundaries, where people of different faiths we see as brothers and sisters. We begin to learn more. I think we do the work and then we stop doing the work. Let's get back to doing the work of bringing people together, educating them, and sharing nuggets of our own faith that they can also use in their lives. I remember I've been working in Interfaith since 1981, and there was a commercial that we used to air on the AIB network, which was Atlanta Interfaith Broadcasters then, and it was a little girl, and it says, are you scared of people? And she says, well, no. She says, because when you play with people, you make friends. So how can we come together and begin to play with each other, begin to travel with each other, have tea and coffee with each other, so that we extend that net of friendship to people who may not seem like us, but who also bleed like us, who also have families like us, who also eat like us. So we need to do more and more of that work. We need to make more friends. We need to get out in the community and do what we need to do so that people get to know us. You know, they get to know us, they get to experience the joy of us. It's so many stories of people, once they got to know a person of a different faith or a different color, you know, they began to make friends. They began to see them in a different light. So I know, as a person who grew up in the rural South, who knew no religion except Baptist, that my life has been so enriched by knowing people of all different faiths, you know? And so I think we have to be able to brand that richness so other people want to join us. I am a member of Hillside International Truth Center. And one of the reasons I'm a member there is because for us, inclusion is a lifestyle. It's not just about us. It's about anybody can walk in the door and be considered a friend, a member, someone that we pour out our love to. So interfaith is a lifestyle. It's a lifestyle. So we have to include more people in this lifestyle, where it's not just about getting together for an event, but it's about living it every day, thinking about how we eat, what we wear, what we do. Is this embracing people who may be different than us? You know, beginning to live interfaith as a lifestyle. I think that will help, and does not diminish the anger and the pain and all that we feel, but it does give us a way forward. I'd like to close by reading a poem, not a poem, a prayer by St. Francis of Assisi, which is one of my most favorite prayers. It says, Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. And where there is sadness, joy. O divine master, grant that I may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive, it is in pardoning that we are pardoned, and it is in dying that we are born to eternal life. Amen. So let us live this lifestyle and invite more people to live it with us. Thank you so much for allowing me this time.
Thank you, Reverend Rice. Next, I'd like to welcome Rabbi Lauren Henderson from the Congregation Or Hadash.
Thank you, Jessica. So honored to be with all of you. And I'm so grateful that I see so many from Or Hadash here in this gathering too with us. So I am Rabbi Lauren Henderson from Or Hadash in Sandy Springs. And I think like so many rabbis across the country, I went to bed last night before I got the news that the hostages had been freed and slept really poorly and was really scared and spent today feeling shaken and worried. And also, like many rabbis, wondered, am I doing enough to keep my people safe? Am I doing enough? Because we know that this could have been any one of our congregations. And so I went back to a story that I learned from the Torah and from our rabbis. I learned this story 6 years ago, and it continues to teach me. And so I want to share it with you. And it really is building on so much of the wisdom that has already been shared here tonight. The story is about Abraham, who is a common spiritual parent to so many of us. And Abraham, as he is recovering from major surgery, is sitting at the entrance of his tent. And the divine presence appears to him in the form of these three strangers. Now, it doesn't say exactly how Abraham knew that these three men were bearers of God. And so the Midrash, the teachings of our rabbis, steps in to fill in the gaps. And it says, who were these men? What did they look like? Where did they come from? And it teaches us that one of them was a Saracen, one was a Nabatean, and one, in fact, was an Arab. Three men who looked nothing like Abraham, had little in common, and yet Abraham immediately saw them as containing wisdom and Torah and wanted to run and greet them. And of course, Abraham, both welcoming the paradigm of hospitality and also wanting to make sure that these strangers were not coming to intend harm for him or his family, he asks a question. He says, how do I know that these guys are okay? And he says, if I see that the Shekhinah, the divine presence, is upon them, I will know that they are good and solid people. And if I see them paying respect to each other, I will know that they are sincere and righteous human beings. So what Abraham is able to do is look beyond the color of skin, to look beyond the differences of religion and faith, to see diversity and all of their multivocality, and to see all of their richness into the core of their hearts and see these are good, good human beings. And so I just want to bless us and to charge us that as much as our natural human instinct in these moments is to build up more walls and to increase our distance and disconnection from one another, that we have the power to be like Abraham and to see through those eyes into the core divinity that is in every stranger from every faith that we encounter. May this ability be with all of us, and I bless us with safety and health and peace. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you. I'm so lucky to have so many rabbis in my life. Everybody should have a faith leader of their own faith, even if they are themselves a leader. So thank you, Rabbi Lauren. Thank you, Rabbi Ron. And I'm really delighted to welcome Rabbi Josh Lesser. He's far away physically these days, but he's very close by spiritually. So please share some with us.
Thank you so much. Rabbi Ellen, I appreciate you gathering us this evening and being a part of my Interfaith family. I'm in Brazil. I'm visiting my Brazilian family, my husband's hometown, which is a remote part of Brazil. And it was a bit surreal to receive this information, but also to have the outpouring from folks like Mayor Dickens, and then today a call from Senator Ossoff, who asked when I told him about this gathering this evening if I would share some of his words with everybody. So if you'll permit me to do that. One of the things I just want to reflect upon is that as he was speaking to me, I heard the gurgling noises of what I had to ask was his newborn daughter, who was, as he said, strapped to his chest. And so I was just thinking, beyond whatever our titles are, the humanity of what does it mean to be in this moment and to have so many people that we want to keep close and protect with a sense of safety. And to think of this man holding his newborn daughter, wanting to usher a world of safety and care and compassion for his daughter. And so I read you these words. This weekend's attack on Congregation Beth Israel in Colleyville, Texas, has shaken the Jewish community in Georgia and nationwide. As we have throughout our history, Jews refuse to be intimidated by cowardly anti-Semitic attacks. We join our fellow Americans of all faiths and ethnicities to defy hatred and deepen our commitments to tolerance, mutual respect, freedom of religion, and peaceful coexistence. Today, I spoke with rabbis and Jewish leaders across Georgia and the leadership at the FBI's Atlanta field office. My staff and I are standing by to connect Georgia's Jewish organizations and congregations and all faith communities threatened by violence with federal, state, or local law enforcement resources. And so those are his words to us. And I want to offer some of my own, which I think is more of an addendum. In part, I want to start by saying that my particular trajectory as a rabbi had me accept the journey from the very beginning that it was likely not going to be one that was filled with safety and security. In 1999, being ordained as an out queer rabbi was actually anything but choosing a path of safety. It was recognizing that I was going to be, particularly in some ways, creating a sense of cognitive dissonance for folks that could be so disruptive that it could lead folks to violence. And in fact, when I first came to Georgia, returning to my hometown where I grew up, I received death threats and was reminded very quickly that this was not going to be a safe endeavor. And I want to say that I've always felt like there were two choices. I could let this harden my path and find a way, as Rabbi Lauren beautifully spoke, choose to build walls, or I could accept and begin to walk with a sense of compassion and kindness, regardless of people's acceptance level or not, to be able to embrace common humanity and treat people as the way I wish to be treated. And I would say that has only deepened and grown over my time, the 22 years I've spent in Atlanta, creating what I would say is a far safer sense of my personal connection, that there is a way that I feel like I am of the good fortune of having the solidarity of the people on this screen and so many more, so that if there were some kind of danger that would come my way, I know that I have people that would stand up for me, and that my actions and my deeds will continue beyond my own very existence for the good of our city, our country, and hopefully our world. And that for me is the kind of safety that I envision supporting folks. I don't think it has to be either or. But I do believe that we have to understand that this isn't a moment to allow hatred to fester, but rather it's a moment for empathy to deepen. We in the Jewish community are observing a holy day this evening. Tu B'Shvat has begun, which is our new year for the trees. And the mystics in Jewish tradition envision the divine spirit as a cosmic tree with roots in the heavens, with branches reaching down and nourishing the entire world. And that really is the image that I want to offer us wherever we may have felt a sense of trauma, wherever we may have felt shaken or a sense of terror from this experience. For us to understand this metaphor of the divine presence with one common root system reaching down and tending to each and every one of us, nourishing us. And that when we are able to understand this beautiful image, which I connect with Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s idea of web of intermutuality, this intricate tree system taking care and sheltering all of us, it feels particularly profound. And I just want to close by sharing two perhaps unrelated things. One is that today when I was sitting outside my family's home, kind of on the side of the street, as many Brazilians are wont to do here, I just heard this woman wailing, and I couldn't understand what she was saying, but it touched this core in me that all of a sudden, I think because of the trauma and because of learning the news late last night, I just began to tear up in front of my husband's family. And we came to learn that this woman had just received a phone call that her daughter had died in a brain surgery. And just this understanding of how, like, not even knowing this person, that we are connected in these moments where the world tears open a sense and we can hold each other's pain and sorrow, and that someone else's pain can cause me to tear is part of the beauty of the human spirits. And it reminds me of the very power of this community, where I want to kind of wind us up, wind my words up, in that there was a September 11th gathering at the Masjid El Islam, where we were outside and Imam Pliman El Amin was addressing us, and all of a sudden a motorcycle crew of folks with American flags waving rode up, and all of a sudden the fear was palpable. And my instinct was to jump up and stand next to Imam Pliman El Amin. And I didn't think about it logically. It was just this sense of not knowing whether these folks were here with malicious intent or whether they were here out of curiosity or out of support. There just seemed the potential of menace. And when a congregant asked me about it later, why was that something that I did? Didn't I realize I was putting myself in harm's way? My response was, I knew at my very core that Imam El Amin would have done the very same thing for me, and in many ways has. And so that is who we are for each other. That is what it means to be nourished from one tree, to stand together side by side. And that with enough creativity and solidarity, we can understand what security means in a world that can be filled with threat at times. I'm grateful for you and for all of us who have gathered.
Thank you, Rabbi. And next, I'd like to welcome to speak Sumaya Khalifa from the Islamic Speakers Bureau.
Thank you, Rabbi Ellen. Thank you, everyone, for your beautiful words. Thank you, Mayor Dickens, for being here, for walking the walk of leadership. Thank you. I want to start off by saying that I'm sending love to each and every one of you. Not only the panelists, but the over 100 people who are on this call. Much love, Leanne. Leanne, thank you so much for reminding us of that. And just lots of love to each and every one of you. Ellen and Interfaith Atlanta, thank you for bringing us together. We are stronger together. We need to be together and connect and heal. Just thinking about the transgression that happened in Texas against a place of worship, against people who were worshiping, is not only a transgression against the Jewish community, it's a transgression against all of us. And I'm sorry, I'm very emotional about it. I did not think I would be, but I am, so please excuse me. I'm very grateful that the hostages were safe, but we all know it's going to take them a long time to get over and deal with that trauma that they experienced. Not only them, but their families and their loved ones, their congregation. I am so happy to hear that the Muslim community and the leaders of the Muslim community were there to support and to talk about how wonderful of interfaith partners the synagogue and the rabbi were. That's what we all need. That's what our world needs. I'm also very grateful to law enforcement, to the first responders who were able to get us this outcome. It could have been much worse, but I am very grateful. I know all of us are. I appreciate all of you being here tonight. I know that Joanna Adams is out there, Sherry Franks, Susheta, and so many people are out there in the same Zoom room. So feel your presence, sending love to each and every one of you. And Ellen, thank you again for your leadership and for bringing us together for this much needed Zoom session. Thank you.
Thank you, Sumaya. We can't do this work without each other, and certainly we cannot do this work without you and your incredible leadership all of these years. You were one of the first people I met here in Atlanta, and you spoke at Temple Emmanuel, and I've been a fan ever since, but also a sister, so thank you. Audrey Galix from Atlanta Interfaith Broadcasting, who many of you know, for your leadership. We're grateful, and we'd love for you to share a couple of words, and then we're going to have our very own Valerie Morvan, and then we'll wrap it up. So we should be done in 10 minutes or so. Stick with us, everybody.
Good evening, and thank you so much, Ellen, and thank you all of you who are part of this gathering and coming together in community. I'm honored to be here and also to serve as Community Engagement Manager of the AIB Network. Long known as Atlanta Interfaith Broadcasters, we remain deeply committed to creating content that explores and bridges religions and cultures, educates the mind, strengthens the body, inspires the spirit. We're also committed to partnering and standing in solidarity with other like-minded organizations and initiatives, those like us that seek to uplift the human spirit. And so on behalf of all of us at AIB, I felt called to share a prayer acknowledging the critical need to learn from and about each other and our respective religious and spiritual paths, and to amplify the voices and expand the reach of all who work to create and sustain healthy, supportive interfaith relationships. Source of hope and healing, we come to you today in gratitude, grateful that all who were taken hostage at Congregation Beth Israel in Colleyville, Texas, were released physically unharmed. We pray for the healing of the invisible emotional scars that they and their community bear as a result of this hostage taking. Creator of us all, May none be moved to repeat such actions of terror and violence, and all be reminded to recommit to speaking out and taking action to end anti-Semitism and all forms of bigotry wherever and whenever it exists, and to uplift the efforts of those who do so. That people from a variety of faith traditions have come together at this moment in a relatively short period of time to offer messages of strength, hope, and solidarity and healing speaks volumes about the blessing of our history of creating and nurturing, sustaining relationships of trust and friendship beyond our own religious communities. We're not speaking for each other or at each other, but listening to and with each other, giving each other a space at the table. It is my hope that as we continue to grow interfaith engagement and dialogue, that the role of a media entity such as AIB can continue to serve as a safe forum across a variety of platforms for people in the faith community to express their opinions openly and freely, to ask questions and learn together, that we can provide space for formal and informal dialogue and be a catalyst for and a partner in building a world of safety and coexistence, as well as a world of religious pluralism, inclusion, equity, and justice. Thank you so very much.
Valerie.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Valerie Morvan, on the board of Interfaith Atlanta and a member of the Shambhala Buddhist Meditation Center. And I'm really happy to be here with the panelists and the participants as a testimony to the good human heart, to human dignity and caring. It's soothing just to be here with you. So when I heard the news of the hostage situation in the temple in Texas, my heart broke, of course. The feelings of vulnerability for my Jewish friends in the face of this event and growing anti-Semitism were huge. But for every act, such as the one that took place yesterday, there are countless others that we don't even hear about. And as this, I try to make sense of these kinds of situations and these moments that seem so dark, I often turn to a poem, and I would like to share that with you tonight. It's by Thich Nhat Hanh, pretty famous Buddhist teacher, who I think taught us better than anybody the interconnectedness of our humanity. And that is what this poem is about. It is called, some of you may be familiar with it. It's called Please Call Me by My True Names. Don't say that I will depart tomorrow, even today, I am still arriving. Look deeply. Every second I am arriving to be a bud on a spring branch, to be a tiny bird with still fragile wings, learning to sing in my new nest, to be a caterpillar in the heart of a flower, to be a jewel hiding itself in a stone. I still arrive in order to laugh and to cry, to fear and to hope. The rhythm of my heart is the birth and death of all that is alive. I am a mayfly metamorphizing on the surface of the river, and I am a bird that swoops down to swallow the mayfly. I am a frog swimming happily in a clear water of a pond, and I'm a grass snake that silently feeds itself on the frog. I'm a child in Uganda, all skin and bones, my legs as thin as bamboo sticks. And I am the arms merchant selling deadly weapons to Uganda. I am a 12-year-old girl, refugee on a small boat who throws herself in the ocean after being raped by a sea pirate. And I'm also the pirate, my heart not yet capable of seeing and knowing love. I am a member of the Politburo with plenty of power in my hands, and I am the man who has to pay his debt of blood to my people dying slowly in the forced labor camp. My joy is like spring, so warm it makes flowers bloom all over the earth. My pain is like a river of tears, so vast it fills the four oceans. Please call me by my true name so I can hear all my cries and laughter at once, so I can see that my joy and pain are one. Please call me by my true name so that I can wake up and the door of my heart could be left open, the door of compassion. It is my prayer that the door of compassion that we're experiencing here tonight stay open. It is my prayer that we are a living example of healing and that we take that with us, that the victims of senseless acts of violence, such as the ones that took place in Texas yesterday, that those victims feel our hearts and caring. I hoped that we could not close, because I'm sure Ellen or Jessica will want to say something, but if we could just take a moment to reflect on this evening's gathering, what it's meant to us, and how we might carry this open heart and caring forward. I'll ring a gong and we'll spend maybe 60 seconds doing this.
Thank you, Valerie. I've just put into the chat just before concluding words, and I'll put it in again, an opportunity for people to join us on Wednesday, not just this Wednesday, but every Wednesday, for reflective practice with different community faith leaders. We come together and are led by different individuals, some of whom are professional faith leaders, that's their profession, and others who are just leaders in our community. And we spend 15 minutes learning and perhaps meditating and reflecting, and then a few moments for communal discussion. But it can be 15 minutes or 30 minutes every Wednesday, and I put that in the chat. I also want to point out just a few people at the risk of leaving anyone out, but I do want to point out that we have the leaders here from American Jewish Committee, Dov Wilker. We have the leaders here, co-leaders from the National Council of Jewish Women, Stacy Hayter-Epstein and Sherry Frank. Thank you for all you do in our community. We have Denise Taste, who's from the FBI Community Initiatives, who's bringing faith groups and cultural groups together to do the healing that is so needed and the growing that's so needed here in Atlanta. And I also want to acknowledge my own part-time congregation members who are here from Congregation B'nai Israel down in Fayetteville. They are always so close to my heart. We can, and if I can actually read the words of an incredible community leader, our Reverend Joanna Adams, who wrote in our open question and answer box, as a longtime Christian minister in Atlanta, Joanna, we see you are in dismay over the recent events in Texas. now more than ever, we think of the faith, and all people of good must remember that we are all children of God. If God wanted us to follow the same path to our Creator could have done that, but God wanted us to be blessed by difference. And so we are. We're joined in humanity, in our common humanity. We're joined in our efforts to make our communities safe and diverse and celebratory and loving. And I invite you to do just as Leanne instructed us, to go be with people, be proximate with those who are not just like you, in order to understand how we are all really part of one humanity. I will leave by saying thank you to our executive director, Jessica Matadine, and our board, who are a few people on our board who helped put this together, and to all of you who led us with such inspiring and beautiful words, healing words. Beyond the words that you shared with us tonight, you're leaders in our community that we count on as colleagues, we count on as leaders, and we are very, very grateful. Perhaps we'll gather again soon for a thrilling and happy and wonderful commemoration or occasion. And until then, we'll hold each other up and we'll hold each other close with prayer, with words of encouragement, with words of healing, and words of comfort. So much appreciation to everyone, and very, very grateful to you, Mayor Andre Dickens. It's a pleasure to meet you. I wish it weren't in this particular context, but you have inspired, and we look forward to your leadership. Thank you. Good night, everybody.
Good night.